the most gutsy people are the people who put out their first few pieces of content. Sometimes I feel like influencers are faking it on their about either about their life or about something, right?
Hi guys, welcome to Z Media India.com. My name is Simran Keswani, and today with us we have a multi-talented individual. She's a fashion designer and a content creator in the realms of fashion, beauty, and lifestyle. But what sets her apart from other content creators is her hatke content. Not only will she give you gyan, but she will also make you chuckle with her comic expressions. So please welcome Ishita Mangal. Ishita, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Simran, for having me.
So, Ishita, I genuinely love your content, especially because it's an amalgamation of entertainment and information both. So, on that note, let's talk about your journey, how you started, and how did the transition from being a fashion designer happen to being a content creator?
I started making content in the pandemic because I had my fashion label before that, and I was trying to make effective sales through content. So what I would do is people would come to me and be like, "Hey, we don't understand how to style your clothes," and that's how I started styling my clothes on my platform to sell them. Cut to we hit the pandemic, so there were no clothes to sell. There was no business. We were out of business. So I just continued making the videos because that's the only thing that I could do at the time. And yeah, and from then on, I think the videos and the whole style of me doing the kind of content that I do picked up so much that I never looked back.
Wow, that's lovely. So, like you mentioned, you started in lockdown, right? 2020.
Yeah.
So I think after lockdown, a lot of content creators emerged after it. So
Yeah.
I want to know that how did you really, were there any challenges, first of all, initially when you started creating content? And also, how did you really pave your way through in the pool of so many other content creators?
Yeah, I think you're right about the fact that there are so many people who cropped up during the same time, and that's exactly why we wanted to like I wanted to try something different because I needed to make a special effort to stand out. Also, it was not just that, it was not a business move at the time because you didn't even know that this was a full-fledged business at the time. But it was more in terms of, okay, I'm not liking doing the same thing that everybody's doing. Like, what value am I adding as a creator
Right.
space which is already so saturated? So I might as well try and do something different. And that's when, yeah, I started making that kind of content.
Right. So how did you come up with this, I would say hatke unconventional content where you're also doing comedy, you're also talking about
Yeah.
styling and beauty.
I think it was a
What was the thought?
Yeah, I think I come from a fashion background. Fashion and beauty is something that I love doing anyway. Like, I think it's a part of all of our routines. And in some way or the other, we're all, as women, we're all inclined towards beauty. And now men are also getting into that space, right? Which is amazing. So I think
Right.
I wanted to showcase that through my channel. It was primarily fashion because I'm educated in the background and I have done business in that same sphere. But it was also about mixing it with my personality, which is a little bit sarcastic, which is a little bit honest, and that's how I like to be in my day-to-day life. So I just wanted to give that extension on my channel, and yeah, it was just an amalgamation of things that I love and things
Right.
I am. So yeah.
And I think comedy as a genre is also very subjective. And then on the top of that, you're mixing it with fashion, which I'm sure requires a lot of creativity. So I want to know, is there any creative process that you go through to come up with content like that?
Yeah, I think ideation and brainstorming is a part of our process now, which we like to do every week or every 10 days off and on. That's a part of who we are as a team. But I think what helps is also sometimes it can get too much because it's like, okay, you have so many ideas. How do you, now it's because we've been in the business for so many years. It's also about, okay, adhering to the brand that we've built and also to make sure that brands don't get pissed off or
Yeah.
you have you have the same business thriving as you move forward, so how you can incorporate new things, right? Still managing the same kind of business that you're doing. So that was the focus, that is the focus now. So I think coming up with creative content is not the challenge, if I'm being honest, but to blend all these things and to make sure that everything fits into the profile
Right.
is the real challenge. Yeah.
So brainstorming helps in that case.
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Also, from the time you started to now, I want to know that is there any evolution that you have witnessed in this industry?
I have witnessed evolution in terms of yes, there has been a content saturation point that people have reached. So
Hmm.
initially, versus now, I feel like there's a lot more appreciation. Not just, I mean, see that there's in our field, there's always a number game, which is the metrics of how somebody is performing. But now you see more validity being given to people who are doing something different, and because the audience is also inclined towards that, which is nice to see because that will encourage more creativity coming from a lot of content creators, irrespective of the number that they're at, because that is very
Right.
important. Of course, there was also a time, if you remember, I don't know if it still happens, but people would do trends where there's one format
Hmm.
set and everybody was sort of going on to the same thing, and that might be entertaining for some people, but I feel like side by side we should also encourage creative content. So it's nice to see the
Right.
audience has reached a point of saturation that they're also appreciating creativity, which is nice.
And what are your thoughts on the shelf life of content creation, especially in this genre like fashion and lifestyle? Because a lot of people do feel that once you start aging or you don't look a certain way, then it's going to have an effect on your following base, especially in fashion and beauty. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Shelf life is there in any kind of business, not just in our business, in anything. And it's also about, it's not just about how you're looking, but how the fact that you're aging. So when you age, your mindset changes and your mindset has been brought up in a different way. If you're not altering your mindset, if you're not constantly hiring new people, younger people, or you're not encouraging new perspectives, you will fade out. Content creation is so vast. It's not just about physically showing up. But now you see, I see like grandmothers posting content and they're doing amazing. So there's no, I
Right.
don't think looking a certain way is, but I think upgrading yourself in a way where you understand what the audience wants, what the audience is liking, and delivering something which is an amalgamation of your personality and that can keep you relevant for infinite number of years, I feel. But I feel like what happens is people get blocked. They're used to a certain type of content, so they're like, acha, 2 years baad also they'll make the same content, which doesn't work. You have to upgrade, update all the time. It
Right.
doesn't happen that. And it's the same with brands. If you're not updating your product, if you're not updating your marketing, if you're not doing it, you will become irrelevant no matter how big of a brand it might be. We've seen many examples of that, right? So it's the same in our field as well.
Right. So, one should just keep evolving.
You have to keep evolving, you have to keep an open mindset, and you have to know what's going on in the market and then update yourself accordingly.
Right. Also, there's this one question that I ask from every influencer, which is about social media trolling. I feel it's a part and parcel of being on a digital platform. If there's certain section that really likes you, there's also one section of society that can be really mean that they don't realize there's a human sitting right across the screen. So I want to know that have you dealt with social media trolling, and basically, if you have dealt with it, how do you go through it?
I don't honestly, I don't know if you'll believe it, but I don't spend that much time on social media. A. B,
Okay.
I think the only way to deal with negative energy, whether it's online or otherwise, is to not get too attached to even the positive. And I've always said this, if you are a content creator, you will get, if you get 90% or 95% positive comments, there's always going to be that five. And but why is that five hurting you? It's only because that 95 makes you go to a cloud nine, which you shouldn't be feeling anyway. I feel like not
Right.
attach yourself to the result too much or not attach yourself to the audience reaction so much. I know that's a very, it's a mix of things, because yes, of course I appreciate the audience that appreciates me or likes my work and everything, and of course I feel immense gratitude for that, but also not get too attached to it that my entire being becomes that, right? I think I need to
Yeah.
attach myself to my work and my product more, because that is
Hmm.
going to be always there. Audience reaction can keep changing. So don't get too attached to the positive, and that will help you not get attached to the negative as well.
So, was this thought always like this, or you have grown a thick skin over time?
No, I think
Um,
in general a thick-skinned person, so I think that probably helps.
Lovely.
And of course, like I told you, I got into the social media space when it was already saturated. So that time only, when you're getting into a social media space, you're aware that there's going to be a positive and negative outlook towards it. When anybody starts as a content creator, there's no audience. You literally have only your friends and family following. It takes guts. I feel like the most gutsy people are the people who put out their first few pieces of content, because there's very little appreciation that you're honestly going to get from that. People are always going to look
Right,
down upon what you're trying to do because you're also new, and that appreciation level is very low, but it takes guts to put that up, because in that moment you didn't care about what people were thinking, right? And that's why you
right,
put it up. So I always remind content creators, just you remember when you uploaded your first five pieces of content, you didn't care what people were thinking. And that's the same attitude that you need to have now.
right. I think that's a great thought, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to get a benefit out of it. Also, dwelling a little deeper into the whole process of content creation and that becoming your source of income. So I want to know, अब बहुत सारे लोग हैं जो अपनी corporate job को छोड़कर full fledged content creation में आ गए हैं. So I want to know what is the process? Like, you put good quality content, you get views and all everything. Uske baad, how does that manifest into being your full-time job? Like, how do you start earning? Do you approach PR? Do you approach brands, or they approach you? What's the process?
I think it's a little bit of all of these things that you're saying. You approach brands and brands approach you, but it's also about like building like that, what I told you initially, it was more about just building yourself into that space. But now any decision that we take, even in terms of organic content, it's like, okay, the brands should appreciate this content, because ultimately that's what's going to keep the car going, right? Otherwise,
Right,
that's what's going to keep the ball rolling. Otherwise, if I don't have the finances to do that kind of production, or to have that to pay for the team, there's no point of doing anything that I'm doing, right? So we have to think from that angle. And Yeah, so it works both ways. And see, you and also knowing where to stop. You can't do everything to please brands also, because at the end of the day, they came to work with you because you have a unique voice. So stick to your roots,
hmm.
to your authenticity, your honesty on your social media platform, but don't take very drastic steps in terms of your content.
Also, Ishita, you launched one of your new campaign. I think it's called States of India. I hope in States of India, right? I hope I'm pronouncing it right. So,
Yes.
can you tell me what's the story behind it? How did you get the inspiration, and what is it all about?
I think it came from the angle of using different languages in different episodes, and I couldn't justify why in my usual beauty episodes suddenly I'm talking in Punjabi, or suddenly I'm talking in Bengali. Like, how do I justify that? And that's when we came up with the idea of doing States of India, where we would do craft and culture of different states of India. So it was never meant to be a series dedicated to only handloom or anything. It was a series dedicated towards culture, because we're essentially targeting a whole state. So I wanted to give it a mix of like what I'm wearing, how it's draped, jewelry, language, culture, food, like literally everything. Sometimes we include dance and music elements as well, right? So we want to include parts of it, but use humor to do it, of course, and then do something which nobody has done before. So I think it came from there, and it really excited me, because again it filled all the boxes of, okay, let's do something different, let's do something that pushes us beyond our existing limits, because I feel like that's also very important to for your growth. And yeah, and it just ticked all the boxes, so we just went ahead with it.
Right, that's lovely. And that was very insightful. I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of budding creators are going to have benefit out of this interview. And in the end, I would love to play a rapid fire with you. So are
Yeah,
you ready for that?
I am ready.
Okay. So, one beauty hack that can instantly uplift your look.
I think I really like, personally, I like the lip and cheek tints. So if,
Mm.
right now also that's what I did. Like I would just like, if you don't have time to get ready, just put a tint here, here, and on your lips, and that's it. It's a 2 minute.
Wow. Okay. Right. Okay. One fashion trend that you think should be done and dusted.
If I'm being honest, I really hate those like logo earrings, like Chanel, Valentino, and I mean, I love those brands, but I don't like those logo earrings. I think and I don't even mind logos that much, but just logos existing as earrings is just, it icks me so much, and I think it needs to go away. I'm sorry.
More into minimalism, I guess.
No, I think it's just too out there, like on both your ears when you see, I just don't see the point of it. It's too icky for,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. One rumor about influencers that is actually true.
So many.
You can
One.
tell us more. You can tell us more than one then.
I'll tell you in private. But
Okay.
that is actually true. One rumor. I mean, what are the rumors? I don't know.
Anything. You tell me. You must have heard it.
Like sometimes I feel like influencers are faking it on their, about either about their life or about something.
All
Hmm.
right. If you wouldn't have been a content creator or a fashion designer, what would you be?
An astronaut. I would love to be.
Oh,
Yeah. I think that was my alternate profession, and yeah, that would have been nice.
nice.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay. And at the end, one tip that you would like to give to budding influencers, budding content creators.
I think the problem that I've seen with a lot of budding content creators is they get very um influenced by what other
Hmm.
people are doing and what's working for other people, because they're also frustrated that their content is not working. And the reason why your content is not working is because you're always trying to be somebody else, or you're always trying to copy, or you're trying to get, or you're getting inspired in whatever way. But I feel like the problem is that they're not trying to find their own voice, their own,
Hmm.
what they really like to do, because audience will pick up on authenticity like this. Like you can't even imagine. The audience picks up on everything. So if you're being authentic, I think that'll work.
Right. Lovely. So that was lovely speaking to you, Ishita. Thank you so much for being with us today. And
Nice.
keep creating such content. It also entertains us and also gives us great tips.